Welcome to the second video for 0.5. We're going to talk about some basic percent problems. So we're actually going to solve some computations involving percents. For example, I'm just going to set this up to help you better understand it. What is 6% of 83? Now, as you do this, there's a lot of different ways we can do this. One that I like to do is I like to take the percent and I change it to a decimal form. Of changes to multiplication, and then I just take the 83. So I can write as 0.06 times 83. Now the key thing here is I just don't do 6 times 83. I'm 6%. So I'm looking for a smaller portion of 6. I mean, think about it. If I ask you what's 10% of something, you say, well, just divide it and move the decimal spot 1. So 6% is less than that. At this point in time, we just grab our calculators, we punch in the values, and we get 4.98. So the biggest thing here was, again, percent to decimal. Anytime you're doing computations involving percents, it's changing it to decimal is going to help you out a lot. Okay, what is 11% of 26? What is 11% in decimal form? Well, it's 0.11. And what about 26 of 26? Well, that's times 26. Punch in the values in a calculator and we get 2.86. So this idea is we're just trying to change it into percent to decimal. Okay, so with that in mind, I want you to find what is 315% of 30. Go ahead and pause the, 315% of 13. Go ahead and pause the video and solve that problem. Go ahead. All right, if you did that, 315% is 3.15 times 13, which is 40.95. Now, here's kind of a clue. 100% of a number is just itself. 300% is kind of like 3 times a number. And you know that 3 times 13 is 39. You can figure that out with a simple calculation. So that means 315% has to be bigger than 39, and indeed our answer is. So this is a little bit of critical thinking as to kind of asking, does my answer make sense? All right, well, here we're going to change it. I'm now going to say what 24 is what percent of 96? To help you with this one, we can look at it in terms of an equation known as is over of, which is 24, because that's the part that's associated with is, and of, which is 96. When I do the division, that's 0.25. But this is in decimal, and I want to know what percent. What is 0.25 as a decimal? Well, as a percent. Percent to decimal means I move the decimal place 2 spots to the right, so it comes out as 25%. So anytime you have an is, and you're looking for the percent, we take the is over of. All right, let me try this one. What percent of 35 is 0.7? So just starting with is over of, how can you finish solving this? Go ahead and pause the video and find that percent. Okay, well the is, even though people might be like, well, is touching 35, only 35 is touching the of, which is why it goes on the bottom, and 0.7 is only touching is, so it gets the top. Now we do the division, take that and grab a calculator and divide it, and you'll get 0.02, but we need to change that into percent form, which is 2%, which makes sense when you stop and think of 2% is a really small amount, but 35 wasn't that big to start off with. All right, what about this one? 280 is what percent of? So I want you to pause the video and I want you to figure out what that percent is. Go ahead. Now, remember, as I've said, all of these problems I've done the last couple times, it's is over of. Don't just automatically take the big number and put it on the bottom. In this case, it's actually the opposite. 280 is on the top because that's associated with is, and 80 goes on the bottom because of. Now, if you do quick division, that comes up to be 3.5, where as a percent, it's 350%. So the is over of helps us figure this out. All right, now what percent? We already did that one. I don't know why this is repeated. At the department store, here's our last example. We're going to do an applied problem. Michelle sees a shirt on sale for 35%. If the original price of the shirt was $45, we want to find out a few things. First off, what's the discount? So how could you find the discount if it's 35% off? Isn't the discount 35% of whatever the price is? So that's really, I'm looking for 35% of 45. So I want you to pause the video and just find what is 35% of 45. Go ahead. Hopefully you remember to change this into decimal form, percent to decimal form. Then I did the multiplication, I get 15.75. So my discount is $15.75. Now the second question is how much would she pay for the shirt after the discount is applied? Well, if this is the discount, my original price is 45, what's the new price? What's the sale price? It's 45 minus 15.75, which is 29.25. This final answer down here is wrong. It should be 29.25. So Michelle would pay $29.25 after the discount. So percents, we use them all the time in our society. We talk about percents in terms of APR, about interest rates. Those are percents. Discounts, taxes. Percents are all over the place. So I recommend that you really spend a lot of time getting familiar with these because this will be probably one of the great applications that you will face. Good luck with this section. Please let your instructor know if you have any questions.